Gee, this is really, it's very touching, it's very moving, it's very emotional.
He doesn't search for subtle, he doesn't whisper. Brooks looks for the madness, the offbeat timing, the too muchness, the kind of performer who can blow up a scene and still make it sing.
I'm in love. I know I'm just struck by her. I'm struck and I'm in love.
For over 60 years, Mel Brooks has redefined what it means to be funny. Writing, directing, producing, even jumping into the frame himself. But behind every genre-breaking moment is something else. His obsession with casting. The right actor, the right chaos. The one voice that can detonate a line and leave the wreckage smoking. He doesn't chase polish, he chases combustion. The producers, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Spaceballs. His films are iconic, but the glue that holds them together is performance. Brooks doesn't just write jokes, he casts explosions. And when an actor gives him that, when someone goes big and still finds the truth, Brooks never forgets. What's left is more than laughter. It's rhythm. It's anarchy with intention.
They're always laughing at me. Why are they laughing at me? I said, look in the mirror, blame it on God.
He's worked with dozens, but only a few became legend. The ones who didn't just land the joke, but cracked open the scene, made it louder, weirder, better. Here are the 6 actors Brooks never stopped trusting, above punchlines, above applause, and no one else has ever replaced them. Number 1, Gene Wilder. Some actors walk into auditions hoping to impress. Gene Wilder didn't walk in. He drifted, like he already belonged in Mel Brooks' world. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't swagger. It was a quiet kind of chaos. A man who looked like he'd seen too much and still wanted to make you laugh about it. And the moment Mel saw him, he knew. This wasn't just an actor. This was a nerve ending with timing. Wilder didn't read for the part. He became it. And once he did, Brooks never looked back. He said, Gene Wilder made panic funny, and that's impossible. From the producers to Blazing Saddles to Young Frankenstein, Gene didn't just perform. He melted into the film like heat behind a joke. Every twitch, every glance, every whispered breakdown, it felt lived in, not written. On the producers, when Gene played Leo Bloom, he wasn't acting hysterical. He was unraveling in real time. 1 minute sobbing, the next minute screaming, then somehow singing. Brooks didn't direct him through it. He cleared the runway and let him fly. On Young Frankenstein, it was Gene who fought to keep the tone sincere. It was his idea to shoot in black and white. His idea to treat it like a real gothic drama, not a sketch show. Brooks said, Gene didn't want to spoof the genre, he wanted to love it to death. That's what made it work.
Give my creation life!
While the world was laughing, Gene was hurting. His characters were always one cracked breath away from collapse. That's where the genius lived, right at the edge. Mel said he could give Gene a page of script and get back something that wasn't just funnier. It was smarter. Wilder didn't aim for punchlines. He aimed for emotional confusion. He wanted the audience to laugh because they didn't know what else to do. In Blazing Saddles, he plays the Waco kid like a cowboy whose soul had already skipped town. He's drunk, hollowed out, and somehow still charming. Most actors would overplay it. Wilder just lets the silence do half the work. Other comedians might fill a scene with volume. Gene filled it with vulnerability. And that's what Mel Brooks treasured. Not just the laughs, but where they came from. With Gene, the comedy was always laced with something darker, something honest. Their working relationship wasn't built on instructions, it was built on instinct. Mel gave Gene the room, and Gene gave him characters that felt real even when the world around them was completely ridiculous. Their bond went deeper than collaboration. It was creative symbiosis. Brooks once said he could tell if a script would work just by imagining Gene reading it. If it didn't sound right in Wilder's voice, it probably wasn't funny enough, or human enough. No one else gave him that radar. No one else brought that trembling brilliance. Gene Wilder wasn't just a favorite actor, he was a mirror for Mel Brooks, reflecting every ounce of madness, but with grace. And when he left the frame, Mel said the film never felt quite as alive again. Number 2, Madeline Kahn. Some performers earn attention. Madeline Kahn made silence funny. The first time Mel Brooks saw her, she didn't audition. She detonated. One line, one look, and suddenly everyone else in the room disappeared. She didn't steal the scene. She made it orbit around her. Brooks once said, Madeline didn't play the joke. She played the person the joke was afraid of. In Blazing Saddles, she waltzes in as Lily von Stupp like a musical hallucination, half Dietrich, half self-destruction. The accent, the posture, the deliberate collapse mid-performance, it's all deliberate chaos. But underneath it, pure control. She wasn't clowning, she was orchestrating the ridiculous. She didn't punch the comedy. She whispered it and let the audience do the rest. Madeline had this way of weaponizing stillness. While everyone else was moving, she stayed calm, and that was what made her dangerous. Her delivery wasn't loud, but it rang out like a bell. On Young Frankenstein, she turned a supporting role into a gravitational field. Every syllable, every breathless shriek, timed like a sniper shot. Her lines didn't need to be written funny, she made them funny just by deciding to. Brooks said she could take a word like no and make it a 3-act play.
Terrible swift sword, his truth is Lord.
She wasn't just funny, she was specific. Every character had rules, boundaries. Madeline never blurred them. She made her choices sharp, sometimes surgical. That's why they linger. That's why you remember a line she whispered more than a monologue someone else shouted. In High Anxiety, she's the femme fatale and the punchline, all in the same breath. One moment seductive, the next completely unhinged, but never out of control. Madeline knew the rhythm. She didn't ride the comedy, she led it. Other actors might chase timing. Madeline owned it, and Mel knew it. That's why he kept calling her back, because she could walk into a scene and tilt the entire story just by raising an eyebrow. She didn't need tricks, she had presence. That's the secret, not style, not slapstick, gravity. And Madeline brought it wrapped in lace, lipstick, and absolute vocal domination. Brooks gave her space, and she filled it, not with noise, but with authority. She didn't beg for attention, she let the script lean toward her. Her energy changed scenes, changed expectations. Mel once said that directing Madeline was like trying to tell fire where to burn. She wasn't difficult, she was precise. And that kind of precision, that's rare in comedy. That's what made her timeless. No ad-libbing, no improvisational chaos, just clarity, control, and that signature slow burn chaos you couldn't turn away from. Audiences didn't just laugh, they leaned in, because they knew something was coming, and it was always better than they expected. There are performers you admire, then there are the ones who change the temperature of the room just by walking in. Madeline Kahn didn't just act in Mel's movies, she tilted the entire frame. And for Brooks, she wasn't just a favorite, she was a weapon he could trust. Number 3. Harvey Corman. Some actors deliver punchlines. Harvey Corman surrendered to them. He didn't fight for the spotlight, he collapsed into it. Sometimes, literally. Corman was the rare kind of performer who could unravel on screen, in real time, and make it look like the most structured fall apart you'd ever seen. Mel Brooks didn't cast him to act the fool, he cast him to understand the fool. Corman once said, "Mel doesn't need you to be funny, he needs you to know why it's funny." That's what made him dangerous. Corman didn't throw jokes, he played desperation. He turned puffed-up authority into flailing mess. His villains weren't evil, they were insecure, flustered, always one insult away from collapse. In Blazing Saddles, his performance as Hedley Lamar isn't just comic relief, it's a blueprint for controlled chaos. He's the straight man pretending he's the villain, pretending he's in charge, but he's not, and Harvey knows it. And that's where the genius lies.
Don't fly off the handle, sir. I am about to make you an historic figure.
Harvey could take arrogance and make it fragile. He wasn't clownish, he was precise. His timing was surgical. Every stammer, every eye dart, every gasp, it wasn't improvised, it was choreographed. He built his comedy on collapse. Brooks once said, Harvey could stretch a panic attack into a 5-minute scene and still hit every line. Even when the camera wasn't on him, he was doing something. Watch any group scene. While others speak, Corman reacts. He listens with his whole body. You can see his characters unravel just by how he breathes. That's a kind of discipline most comedic actors never master. And then there's the crack. The moment when Harvey breaks. It happened constantly, especially with Tim Conway or on the Carol Burnett show. But even in Mel's films you can catch it. A smirk he can't suppress. A twitch of the lip. And the audience loves it. Because that crack? It's permission. Permission to laugh harder. Permission to feel like you're in on the joke. In High Anxiety, he plays a cruel, rigid villain. and still you can't help but laugh when he loses control. That's the trick. Corman never tries to be funny. He lets the absurdity eat away at his character's confidence. His characters never know they're in a comedy, and that's exactly what Mel needed. Other actors performed jokes. Corman performed fear of humiliation. He didn't play clowns, he played people pretending not to be clowns. And Mel gave him the room to do it, because when Harvey had space, he didn't fill it with noise, he filled it with implosions. He could turn a sigh into a symphony of ego destruction. He could turn a word like "what" into a 6-act opera of confusion. That's the power of Corman. His comedy wasn't just broad, it was layered. The longer the scene, the more ways he found to unravel. He didn't rush. He unfolded. And when Mel Brooks talks about Harvey now, there's a softness. You can hear it. He wasn't just a collaborator, he was a pillar. One of the rare few who could anchor a scene with a meltdown and still give everyone else the space to shine. Because that was Harvey's secret. He never needed to be the center, he just kept becoming it. Every time he walked on screen, something felt just a little bit more ridiculous, a little more human, a little more true. And Brooks? He didn't just laugh. He watched. Because Harvey Corman didn't deliver lines, he deconstructed the moment. Every time. Number 4. Dom DeLuise. Some actors steal the scene. Dom DeLuise devoured it, and made you love him for it. Mel Brooks didn't cast Dom to be restrained, he cast him because no one else could explode on screen with that much joy, that much chaos, and still make it feel like home. There was nothing tidy about Dom. He didn't enter quietly. He didn't wait for the spotlight. He grabbed it, rolled around in it, and tossed it back with a laugh. Brooks once said, "When Dom walked into a scene, it wasn't acting anymore. It was jazz, it was fireworks, it was heart." Watch him in History of the World Part 1. There's a rhythm to his madness, a kind of beat he dances on while the rest of the cast tries to catch up. He barrels through lines with a full-body commitment, flipping from menace to sweetness in half a breath. But that's the trick. Underneath all the absurdity, Dom played with precision. He knew the line between chaos and clarity. He could swing from volcanic rage to puppy-eyed innocence without warning, and Mel trusted him to do it because it always worked.
Nice. Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
DeLuise wasn't just a comic actor, he was a force. His laughter was its own special effect. His presence on set didn't just boost the energy, it shifted the gravity. Other actors performed jokes. Dom lived inside them. And yet, with all the bluster, there was vulnerability. You could see it peek through the volume. That little flicker behind the grin that said, "I'm not just trying to make you laugh, I'm trying to make you feel okay too." He wasn't polished, he was honest. Mel Brooks said, "There's something childlike in Dom. Not childish, childlike." He believed in the joy of pretending. That's why Dom worked so well with everyone, from Madeline Kahn to Marty Feldman. He didn't compete, he amplified. He elevated everyone around him by giving more than the scene asked for. And Mel knew it. That's why he kept calling him back. Whether it was as the high-strung pizza chef in Robin Hood, Men in Tights, the unhinged monarch in History, or his iconic voice work in animated films Mel supported, Dom brought something no one else could: exuberant empathy. He could scream and charm in the same sentence. He could fall off a chair and still land the emotional beat. And when he laughed, really laughed, you felt it in your chest. That's the magic. DeLuise didn't care about looking cool or composed. He made himself the joke so the audience never had to feel like one. He gave permission to lose control, to be too much, to laugh at yourself without shame. That kind of performance isn't planned, it's shared. And Mel understood that. Because every time Dom walked on set, he didn't just bring the funny, he brought relief. He burst through the frame like a warm gust of absurdity, leaving behind a scene that felt more human, more unruly, more alive. He never aimed for subtle, he aimed for connection. And when the scene was over, you didn't just remember the joke, you remembered how it made you feel. That was Dom's legacy. Laughter with soul, chaos with compassion, and performances that never apologized for being too loud, too big, too weird, because deep down, they were too real to ignore. Mel didn't cast him to tone things down. He cast him because Dom DeLuise made excess feel like truth. Number 5. Cloris Leachman. Some actors perform comedy. Cloris Leachman cornered it, tied it up, and made it beg for mercy. She didn't shout. She didn't flail. She didn't need to. Cloris could make a room burst into laughter by standing still. And Mel Brooks knew from the moment she stepped into frame, she didn't just get comedy, she controlled it. Brooks once said, Cloris had the timing of a sniper, she waited, then struck, and it always killed. Her most iconic moment, Young Frankenstein, Frau Blucher, the name alone made horses rear in terror. But what Leachman did with that role was pure precision. Every pause was calibrated, every glance sharpened like a knife. She took a small part and turned it into a cultural echo.
I am Frau Blucher.
But Cloris didn't rely on gags. She weaponized subtlety. In a room full of outrageous performances, she stood out by pulling back, letting the awkward silence hang, letting the discomfort simmer. And that's where the laughter lived, just beneath her deadpan stare. Mel Brooks said he barely had to direct her. She came in knowing exactly what beat she was playing. Sometimes he'd try to adjust her delivery, and she'd politely ignore it, because she knew better, and she was usually right. Cloris had range most comedians envied. She could switch from absurd to sincere in a blink. 1 second she's the deranged housekeeper with a dungeon fetish, the next she's channeling real emotional weight. That's what made her dangerous. She wasn't just funny, she was real, so when she was funny, it landed even harder. In High Anxiety, she played Nurse Diesel with a kind of operatic restraint, equal parts menace and maternity. She didn't raise her voice, she raised the tension. And she did it with posture, with presence, with that icy smile that said, I know something you don't. And the audience couldn't look away. Brooks once described her as a comedy surgeon, not because she cut people up, but because she made every moment precise. She carved her space with stillness, not noise. And in a Mel Brooks film, that kind of control is rare and lethal. Cloris didn't act out the joke, he said. She stood there and became the joke, and you couldn't beat it. She brought a kind of confidence that let others bounce off her. Wilder, Feldman, Kahn, they could all go big because Cloris grounded the scene. She anchored the madness, gave it gravity. And behind the scenes, she was chaos in the best way. Pranks, ad-libs, glances that sent co-stars into fits of laughter mid-take. Brooks would often ruin a perfectly good take because he couldn't hold it together behind the camera. But when it counted, Cloris delivered. She didn't just know her lines, she knew the tone better than anyone. She could walk into a scene, say 4 words, and tilt the whole story. Others got more screen time, some had flashier roles, but no one landed more moments per minute than Cloris Leachman. She didn't ask for laughs, she earned them, through control, confidence, and timing that couldn't be taught. And for Mel Brooks, she wasn't just a favorite, she was his scalpel. Sharp, exact, and absolutely unforgettable. Number 6. Zero Mostel. Some actors chew the scenery. Zero Mostel devoured it, digested it, and then threw it back as a monologue. He wasn't subtle, he wasn't careful, and Mel Brooks didn't want him to be. He wanted zero, unfiltered, untamed, and absolutely impossible to ignore. Brooks once said, Zero Mostel was like a volcano in a top hat. You didn't direct him, you just cleared the area and prayed. It all started with the producers. Mel's very first film, and the role of Max Bialystock was a monster, loud, scheming, desperate, the kind of role that could crash and burn if the actor didn't bring full commitment. But Mostel didn't just commit, he launched. His version of Bialystock wasn't just a character, it was a survival mechanism. A man clawing through every scene with ego, panic, and just enough charm to get away with all of it. And yet, through all the shouting and sweat, there was something delicate. Zero could flip from mania to vulnerability in half a sentence. He wasn't just performing, he was exposing something.
Bloom, I'm reaching out to you. Don't send me to prison.
That was his magic. Mostel could make the audience uncomfortable and win them back in the same breath. 1 second you're laughing at how ridiculous he is, the next you're wondering if he might actually break down in front of you. Mel didn't cast him because he was easy to work with. He cast him because he was undeniable. Behind the scenes, Zero was famously difficult, demanding, stubborn, but Brooks never held it against him. Because when the camera rolled, he delivered. And not just technically, emotionally. The kind of emotional chaos that can't be taught or directed, only survived. Brooks said, working with Zero was like wrestling a lion, exhausting, beautiful, and completely worth it. There's a reason the producers worked. Gene Wilder was the trembling heart, but Zero, he was the hurricane. Without him, the movie doesn't breathe the same way. He made Mel's writing bigger, bolder, wilder. He gave the film teeth, and a face audiences couldn't forget. Mostel didn't play funny, he played need. Every outburst came from hunger, for money, for attention, for control. That desperation, that's what grounded him. You couldn't just laugh at Bialystok, you had to feel bad for him too. And very few actors could carry that contradiction. Even decades later, Brooks still talks about Zero with awe. Yes, he drove everyone crazy. Yes, he pushed every limit. But when you needed someone to throw himself at a scene like it owed him money, Zero was your man. And when it worked, it was magic. That's why Brooks never tried to replace him. That kind of raw, oversized honesty, you only find it once. Zero Mostel wasn't just a performer, he was a one-man genre. Louder than life, sharper than he looked, and just unhinged enough to make you lean in closer, even when you knew you probably shouldn't. For Mel Brooks, he wasn't just a favorite actor, he was the original explosion. And every performer after him has been chasing the same blast. Mel Brooks never needed perfection, he needed presence. The kind that breaks the scene, rewrites the rhythm, and leaves everyone, including the director, struggling not to laugh. These six didn't just deliver lines, they built the storm. With sweat, with timing, with fearless, absurd, heart-splitting performances. And Mel? He gave them space. Because when comedy's that electric, all you do is aim the camera and get out of the way. Let us know who your favorite was. And if you're still here, go ahead. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, or become a member for early access and extra deep dives like this one. Because the best performances, they don't age, they ignite.